What is up, everybody? This is Anthony with VR365. What is going on? It is time for another episode of the show. It is 5 p.m. Pacific time. It is January 16th, of course. This is Thursday, and we've got another show for you guys today. And it's going to be a very interesting episode. It's going to be a bit of a different kind of an episode. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to start off with the biggest news stories in VR gaming. I'm going to cover a bunch of different news stories and some different things that are going on in the VR gaming world. And then we're going to have an interview with M from Truant Pixel. One of the primary developers at Truant Pixel is going to go by the name M, and we're basically going to do an interview. And it's going to be audio only, so it's kind of a disappointment there in terms of audio only. But I still think there's a lot of interesting things to discuss. I really want to talk about like the future of sports in VR, especially American football in a certain way. Because here in the United States, American football is freaking huge. And there's a game called John Madden Football that every year sells millions upon millions of copies, always in like the top 10 best-selling games of the entire year. And it's a big deal. And in the VR gaming world, we don't really have games like that yet. Now, Truant Pixel is doing their best, and they're giving us a great arcade football game. And it's awesome, and it's on the Quest, and I believe it's selling well. And we're going to talk about Quest sales, and talk about Snapdragons, and we're going to talk about the Quest Killer, and we're going to talk about AR, and all kinds of things. So we're going to have an interesting discussion. I think it's going to be awesome. It is going to be audio only, but that's going to be on the second half of the show. Greg's VR is mentioning the Sweeviver drama. And you know what? Honestly, I'm not covering that because I thought about it. I thought about covering it. And then I thought, you know what? That's just going to be a bad idea. I don't know a good way to cover that without causing major problems. So I think I'm just going to dodge that one altogether. But yeah, we're going to talk to developer. One of the key developers at Truant Pixel. That'll be coming up later. We're going to start off with news and stuff first, but you know what we got to start off with even before the news? We got to talk, of course, about sponsors, the sponsors for VR365. And when I'm talking about sponsors, I'm not talking officially like somebody paid for this episode and I need to like advertise it that somebody paid for this episode. Not that kind of sponsor. I'm just talking about PayPal donations, Patreon supporters, Amazon Prime supporters. Remember, this channel, folks, is not monetized. We are not monetized on YouTube. We're trying to change that. Team YouTube on Twitter supposedly is helping us. Hopefully something's happening over there. I haven't heard anything in a while. But hopefully monetization is going to come pretty soon. But right now, we don't have monetization. And so I do depend on the gracious support of the viewers, the listeners, the watchers, the people that check this stuff out. And so what I like to start off with is brand new Patreon supporters for VR365. We don't have a brand new Patreon supporter this week. You might remember Zach LaFontaine and Andy L. Mai are the two recent brand new Patreon supporters that we have. But if we don't have a brand new Patreon supporter, we will thank one of our existing Patreon supporters, one of our longtime Patreon supporters that have been there in the hard times, in the good times, the bad times, and all the times. And that, of course, is Wes Osborne, also known as OBuff55. Sometimes you'll see OBuff55 in chat, and sometimes you'll see OBuff55 on our Discord server. In fact, honestly, that's where you'll probably see him more often, especially talking about the Oculus Quest and stuff like that. Oba55, really good supporter of the show. Wes Osborne, longtime Patreon supporter. So definitely want to say thank you very much to Wes Osborne. Okay, another thing I've been wanting to try to do is thank PayPal donators, especially anybody that has recently donated via PayPal. And guess what? We actually have 3 new PayPal donations to talk about. Let's start it off. Barry Davis. Barry Davis donated $20 via PayPal. This was a couple of days ago. Thank you in a major way, Barry Davis. Really appreciate it. It's awesome because I'm telling you, the support that does come in, it allows me to buy a new SSD drive. It allows me to buy VR games that I don't get. There's VR, like for example, Iron Man VR. The chances of me getting a key for Iron Man VR for PlayStation VR are about 0.0001. That's about my chances right there. And donations like Barry Davis's $20, that helps out in a major way. Thank you so much, Barry Davis. Recent $20 donation. That is really awesome. Awesome PayPal donation. Another $20 donation, Michael Kowarski. And don't you remember we were just talking about Michael Kowarski like a couple of weeks ago? So double bangers. Another $20 donation from Michael Kowarski. That is awesome. Michael, you can chill out now. But I definitely appreciate it. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Michael Kowarski. Another $20 donation from Michael. That is super cool. And then finally, the most recent donation, I think this came in, actually maybe today it came in, is Rob with a $25 donation. Rob at rt3dtech.com. And thanks so much again. The support is incredible, especially when we are not monetized on YouTube. So we don't really get any money from anywhere. We don't get support. So that's the way we get it. And it's absolutely mission critical. And if we get support, it's awesome. So absolutely appreciate that. Thank you so much to Barry Davis, Michael Kowarski, Rob from rt3dtech.com. And of course, again, Wes Osborne. Thank you for your support. All right, so that pretty much takes care of that. But I do have one other real quick promotion to do before we move on with the actual news of the day. This is going to be the last little bit of promotion to start off the show. And on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen, Alex, Virtual Insider in the building. So Sunday at 11:30 a.m. on Twitch, we're going to do a live stream. And I'm going to interview Alex from Virtual Insider. Remember, Alex was the guy, I believe he was the founder, the inventor, the creator of Virtual Strangers. Decided to back away from Virtual Strangers and let Wes and Roots take over the ship there. MainFan also backed off of that. Then he started Virtual Idiot. Oh my God, he was such an idiot. Virtual Idiot was the channel for a while, and now it is Virtual Insider, and we've never interviewed Alex on this show. And there's so many different things, so many different angles to talk about. That is going to be a real interesting interview. I'm going to be talking to him a lot about what he thinks of the year 2019 in VR. I'm also going to be talking to him about the future of VR technologies and where things are going. What is the most important aspect of a VR headset? This is something that I'm going to be talking with every single person I interview from here on. I want to ask them this bonus question. What is the key factor for a VR headset? Is it resolution? Is it field of view? Is it body tracking? Is it smell-o-vision? Is it foveated rendering? I mean, there's a lot of different possibilities. Is it just pure comfort? Does it absolutely have to be wireless above everything else? What is the key factor for VR headsets going forward? But you can only pick one. You can only pick one. What is the most important thing? So I'm going to be asking a lot of people about this, but I'm definitely going to be asking Alex about it. Hussein X says, Virtual Insider sounds more credible. Really? More credible than Virtual Idiot? It should have been The Village Idiot. But no, yeah, and that's another thing we're going to do on Sunday's episode with Alex. What are the other possible names we could have gone with? Virtual jackass? Virtual, there's lots of possibilities. So I believe it's going to be a fun episode with Alex. That is Sunday, 11:30 a.m. on Twitch. So definitely check that out. Remember, you got to tune in to Twitch at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday if you want to see it live. If you want to participate in chat and do it all the way live, it is 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Now, the show will end up on YouTube at a later point, like probably Monday. So it's tape delayed considerably. So if you want to see it live, that's the way to do it. All right, so now let's get into the news of the day. And we've got real deal news that is popping off in the VR gaming world. In fact, is the next Magic Leap about to drop a bomb on the world? I don't know, but there is new technology. Dude, I thought this was straight up April Fool's Day. Like, what is going on? It is not April 1st. It is January 16th. Why are we talking about April Fools? Well, this kind of seemed like April Fools to me. Now we're going to switch to the Webinator. And this is Mojo Vision. Who would have known that Mojo Vision would be the next game changer, ladies and gentlemen? Not Magic Leap, Mojo Vision. Is this the next Magic Leap? Is this the next, and when I say, is this the next Magic Leap? I mean, is this the next dream? Is this the next dream that we dream? Because we dreamed of Magic Leap, and the dream was a nightmare. It didn't work out. It wasn't what we wanted. It wasn't what I wanted. I was hoping you put on Magic Leap, you put that shit on, you look over to the other side of your room and you're like, oh my God, there's somebody standing right there in my room. This is so amazeballs. This is changing everything. I got to sell my car and get a second mortgage on my house because I'm buying a goddamn Magic Leap because it's so incredible. That's what I wanted from Magic Leap. That didn't happen. But we've got Mojo Vision, folks. Mojo Vision. Now, what if tomorrow you could, I don't know, let's go ahead and scroll down and see. Okay, see the road ahead. All right, let's check this out. So here's a video. They're riding the bike. Oh my God, she's got Tron vision, Terminator style. She can see all kinds of statistics in her natural vision. But wait a minute, where's the effing goggles? I don't see the AR goggles. I don't see the VR headset. How is this possible? She knows how many calories she's burning. Dude is struggling trying to go up that hill. She knows what her heart rate is. She knows what kind of incline she's working with. This is next generation, ladies and gentlemen. But what is Mojo Vision? Because I don't see the headset here. Okay, well, let's scroll down. What if you could elevate your sight? Okay, here's another interesting little video. These websites that they do now, right? With the fancy websites, with the videos that automatically play. Okay, so here's a cowboy lady. She's got some vision problems. Oh my God, Westworld Awakening has been realized, folks. Westworld Awakening. Look at this. She is stepping into Delos. She put on her cowboy hat, she got on the horse, and now people are turning green. Firewood, roadside objects, tractors, all turning green. Grandma has turbo vision. Grandma has turbo vision. But how is she doing it? Again, I'm not seeing the AR goggles. I don't see a VR headset. Well, this is Mojo Vision, ladies and gentlemen. It is invisible. The first invisible VR headset. Well, kind of invisible. Okay, now you can look the world in the eye. So let's see this guy. Oh yeah, so you can see if, did the restaurant get 4 stars or not? I'm in Times Square, or maybe I'm in Japan or something. I can't figure out where the hell to go. Don't know where my goddamn hotel is. Oh my God, it's going to guide my way there. But again, I'm not seeing the AR goggles. This is false advertising, ladies and gentlemen. You got to show us the AR goggles. This is bullcrap on a stick. How are you going to, wait, eyes up. Tomorrow is here. Tomorrow is here. Holy moly! They're giving you brand new eyeballs. You get brand new eyeballs. Oh my God, I can't believe this technology. Oh, no, okay. Not brand new eyeballs, but what it is, meet Mojo Lens, everybody. Mojo Lens. We've all been dreaming about it. Meet it. It is a smart contact lens with a built-in display that does not cause cancer. We promise. We promise it doesn't cause cancer. Okay, Mojo Lens, a smart contact lens with built-in display that gives you timely information without interrupting your focus or causing irreversible brain damage. By understanding your real-world context, Mojo Lens provides relevant eyes-up notification and answers designed by optometrists, technologists, and medical experts. They've all come from Area 51 to help Mojo Vision get off the ground and make next-generation technology. That's what we're talking about here. Brand new eyeballs for everybody. Vote for Bernie, you get brand new eyeballs. How incredible is that? Information without the distraction. No distraction, Jackson. We don't want that. The making of Mojo, AR contact lenses that gives your eyes superpowers. Okay, then we've got a lot of different stories and stuff that are going on. But yeah, this is the thing that broke today. In fact, I believe it's Scott Stein. I might have that incorrect, but I believe it's Scott Stein of CNET. He's like one of their lead CNET guys that checks out different headsets, AR headsets, VR headsets, all kinds of technologies. And yesterday he tweeted out a cryptic tweet, something about tomorrow we're going to be able to reveal something, or tomorrow we get to introduce something. And people are like, oh shit, what is it going to be? Because dude's already seen the Quest Killer. Dude has already worn the Quest Killer. He's one of maybe like a dozen people on planet Earth that have put the Quest Killer on his head. Well, he has also seen the bionic vision of Mojo Vision. It is next gen. So yeah, this is the drama that is going on today. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen, to put this crap right into your eyeballs and to change the way the game is played? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back over here. And what I've done, there's an interview with one of the main guys over there at Mojo Vision, the CEO, Mike Weber, something like that. We'll check on his name here in just a second. But there was an interview with TechCrunch, and he basically had a couple of quotes. I grabbed it in a quick little video clip. Why don't we check out this video clip and see what he's talking about? Is this the future of technology? Are we basically leapfrogging pretty much 20 years in VR, AR tech? We're just going to bypass all the bullshit and we're going to go straight to your eyeballs. Okay, not quite Neuralink, but you want to talk about full FOV? This is full FOV, right? I mean, it's your entire effing eyeball, kind of. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pump up the volume on this beautiful Battle Wake trailer by Servios, a developer that killed shit with a game called Westworld Awakening. I'm going to pump this up. We're going to go full screen, and then I'm going to switch over to this quick little clip of the CEO, the main dude at Mojo Vision. Mojo Vision and Magic Leap, together forever. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this.
The high seas become. We dare take the fight. Adios, Captain. Have fun swimming on.
We think it's a really exciting new category with a lot of opportunity. If we can kind of change the way the relationship that we have with some of our screens and actually make things less intrusive by letting us look and feel human, right? A contact lens that is very subtle and hard to notice when you wear it, and yet is connecting you to the information that you want when you want it, and the rest of the time is off, right? Our objective is not to bombard you with information all the time. And we think there's some very exciting medical applications as well, particularly for people with vision impairment, to be able to help them see better and function better and feel better about going out into the world and working and being present.
All right, yeah, that was the quick little interview there at TechCrunch. They had that. And let's go back to the webinator. And so, yeah, this is Mojo Vision. They see a better world. They have a vision. They have a plan. Mojo is dedicated to helping individuals reach their highest potential in work, play, and life while staying connected to people and events in the real world. Our experience, they've got scientists. They've got futurists. They've got medical experts. They've got people that have built the latest UFOs. They got a lot of shit over there. No, they seriously say we've got people, we've joined forces to give people superpowers. So they're in the superpower business. This is their leadership. Mike Weimer, Chief Technology Officer, he was the guy, and these are some of their other people on board. But basically, the way I understand it, these guys have been doing this in secret for a number of years in California. A lot of money behind this thing. And this is the first time that they are going public with this. So now the information is out there. Visionaries are wanted. Yeah, they're looking for other people to join their group. These websites kind of bother me the way they do this. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on here. And there's lots of news stories all over the internet. For example, CNET and stuff. This is your boy Scott Stein. Yeah, this is what he was talking about yesterday. He tweeted out yesterday that there's something major they're going to be revealing tomorrow. So that's what this story is all about. Mojo Vision's smart contacts put text in my eye and let me see in the dark. They're aiming for even more than that. And here's a picture right here. It says that green dot, that's the display. That's the actual display. So it's a contact lens. It goes on your eye. And when you first think about this, you're like, oh my God, this could really revolutionize everything, right? This bypasses all kinds of shit. But there's so many other questions that then pop up from this. For example, this thing has to get power. Something has to drive that screen. And then you have a screen that is literally on top of your eyeball. Now, I've never worn contact lenses, so that's another whole ball game unto itself. Those of you that have never worn glasses, you don't wear glasses, so you don't need contact lenses, so you've never cared about contact lenses. I've always been freaked out. Well, I mean, not freaked out, but I've always thought it was weird. Like, I've known people that use contact lenses and they have these little things and they pop them open, they get this thing and they put it in their eyeball. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want anything touching my eyeball. I guess you get used to it after a while, you get over it, but it just seems weird. Like, I don't even like putting drops in my eyes, much less wearing an effing contact. But could it be a game changer? I don't know. There's lots of unanswered questions. I mean, the real question, so there it is. There's your boy Scott Stein. And basically in this demo, you get to hold it up really, really close to your eye. You get to see text. Text is in my eye. So what is exactly going on here? You know, he says Mojo Vision, a company founded in 2017, has been stealth for years. Yeah, that's the new buzzword. Dude, we were stealth. We were underground making B-52 bombers. But now their smart lenses have been revealed. Mojo Vision is still years away from like an FDA approved version of its lens. That's the thing. This is going to need FDA approved. You can see in the dark. You can do all kinds of crazy shit. There's a lot of interesting stuff about it. This is kind of the monochromatic display that you can see if you got under a microscope there. Scott Stein is saying that what he saw wasn't exactly like this, but it was pretty close. And the technology is pretty incredible. I don't know. It's very interesting. The Mojo lens will also be able to do some medical related stuff as well. People who have low vision conditions like macular degeneration, glaucoma, retinitis pigmentosa, which is a type of tunnel vision, night blindness. They're going to be able to give you some superpowers, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it is kind of cool because you know what? I have been driving at nighttime. That's the thing. So I don't need glasses in regular day-to-day activity. I've avoided glasses. I needed glasses at one point in time. Then I stopped using the glasses, and then my eyes got better, and I didn't need to use the glasses anymore. Public service announcement. If you use glasses, they actually make your eyes weaker. And the more you use glasses, the more you're going to need to use glasses. And I was able to, it was weird. I went to a Sacramento Kings basketball game, right? I was sitting up real high, couldn't see the goddamn players, blurry as hell, couldn't read the numbers. It was problematic. Then I went and got glasses, nearsightedness, whatever. Got my glasses, went to another Kings game. I'm sitting up high, looking down. Jerseys are sharp as can be. I could see who was actually running around on the court. It worked great. But you know what? After a while, I put the glasses off to the side, stopped using them, could go to a Kings game and could still see shit. So you can overcome that. I mean, not everybody, I know. Obviously, we all have our own problems. But one of the things I was going to mention is when I'm driving at nighttime, imagine if you did have contacts that could just just illuminate everything, like straight night vision, and you're just seeing everything. You could see deers running around and stuff out of the peripheral vision. That would be pretty incredible. So, there's some interesting stuff going on here, but this is very new. We're just finding out about this. How are they going to transmit the data? 5 gigahertz radio that will, how's it going to power it? Power on the Mojo Lens prototype is delivered wirelessly right now. Eventually, a tiny battery will live on the lens itself. Are you really cool with putting a tiny battery right into your eyeball? But, this is interesting. Again, I thought Magic Leap, originally I didn't, but after we figured out what was going on, I figured, Magic Leap is 7 years too early. This company's 25 years too early. But dude, I appreciate the fact that they're really going down this road. Did anybody think that this was even possible this quickly? Look at it. That's the size of the contact lens. That is a penny, of course, right there. That's your boy Scott Stein. And that little tiny green thing, that is the actual screen. That's the actual display. We, of course, are talking about Mojo Vision, a breakthrough technology. Possibly, maybe not, I don't know. But that is pretty interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and bounce back over here. We do have an interview coming up very shortly, so I've got to get through a number of other stories. Why don't we go ahead and bounce over to, actually, hold on one second. Let me see if I can grab a trailer for something. I'm not sure if I have. See, the problem is my trailers, I don't have all of them over here. Let's see, I'm trying to see. I switched my PCs. And yeah, no, I'm not really seeing this. I'm seeing if I have an Oculus Go trailer possibly up in here. Just a general Oculus Go trailer. But no, not seeing it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and go to the webinar. We'll go to the webinar and we'll bounce over to Upload VR. And so one of the biggest stories that is, of course, going on out there is, let's switch over to the light version. I like the light version better. Oculus Go with a permanent price cut down to 150 buccarinis. What does this mean, ladies and gentlemen? This is big news, but is it the wrong news? What is this? Do we feel good about this? Do we hate this? It's a weird situation. One of the first questions I wanted to ask about this Oculus Go price cut, do we care? Should we care? First of all, is the price gone down? Has it gone down far enough? $99.99. That's kind of the magic price point right there. If they could get down to $99.99, they could be at Walgreens. They could be at Rite Aid. They could be at CVS. There's different electronics. You go to Walgreens, you go to CVS, They have little goofy electronic things, but they don't carry stuff that's like 149 or 200 normally. You get down to 99, that becomes an impulse buy at a lot of different places. And so it's dropped to 149, which is a good deal. It's actually quite solid. But the question is, do we even want the Oculus Go to be successful? Like, do we want more people to buy this? Remember when the price dropped to 129 for Black Friday or whatever it was, like Cyber Monday or whatever day it dropped to 129, they sold like freaking wildfire. Tons of people bought these things, and we thought it was mostly good. But then at the same time, we're also thinking, oh, but man, you know, the Oculus Go is pretty damn good. It does a lot of things pretty good, but it is 3DOF. But you can do some decent things in an Oculus Go headset. For example, I was trying big screen not too long ago. Remember when we were talking about the whole big screen thing? I was trying big screen on my big boy headsets like the Valve Index, Oculus Quest, stuff like that. But I wanted to show some other members of my family what big screen is about, and it was easier for me to just bring them the Oculus Go, put it on their head, and pop them into big screen because it's easy to teleport around and kind of get the idea of what big screen is all about. And there's certain things that you can do on your Oculus Go that feel pretty damn good and are very impressive and show VR well. But it is 3DOF, and it doesn't give you that true sensation. So it's like, man, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You don't really know. Do we want this thing to be super successful, or do we want the Oculus Go to just disappear and just go away? Because it's almost like, it's weird. It's such a weird thing to not know whether you want, and I don't think Facebook really knows either. I don't know that Facebook really wants this to be super successful, but I guess they do need to have a product that they need to have a product that can bridge the gap. They need a product that they can sell to the senior citizens out there. You don't know ARP? Well, Oculus Go knows ARP. And they can sell these things to the 60 and over crowd, the 70 and over crowd, because they're just going to kick back on a sofa and they're just going to watch a 360 or a 180 video. And the Oculus Go works great for that. Or they can do some basic little things in there. There's some cool things they can do. So I kind of think it's cool that the prices dropped to $149. I really wish it did go down to $99.99 because that is the magical price point right there. But it is pretty good. Okay, so looking over at chat, let's see what some of the folks are talking about. Cyan VR was saying that in Catan VR, half of the players are on an Oculus Go. Person says 3DOF, not VR. This is ruining things. Skiva007 says the Go needs NOLO. NOLO, YOLO, all damn day. Gaming Science Teacher says Lenovo just announced a whole educational VR platform that's 3DOF. Hussein X says, I love the Go. It's the perfect complement for my Rift S. I have no need for the Quest. I look forward to a 3DOF Go 2. Really? Would we really make a 3DOF Go 2? I think the Go 2 should be 6DOF, but no controllers. Like, it doesn't come with controllers, but you can get controllers later, but it has advanced hand tracking. Speaking of hand tracking, ladies and gentlebots, let's go back over here. Let me grab another story. We are going to have an interview with Truant Pixel, one of the developers from Truant Pixel, very soon, and we're going to ask him a lot of interesting things. But really quick, let me see. Do I have a Thrill of the Fight? Oh, wait a minute. I know I do, right? The Thrill. Let me see. Fight. What? I don't have Thrill of the Fight apparently on this PC. Well, isn't that a bunch of crap? All right, well, let's just go back to the webinator. Having some problems, ladies and gentlebots, but this is in the news. The developer of Thrill of the Fight, Ian Fitz, is causing some problems here. Let's go back over to the webinar. I got to do a better job with my trailers, getting my trailers here and having them. Okay, so Thrill of the Fight developer says that the hand tracking on the Oculus Quest not capable enough, not up to snuff to switch completely to hand tracking on the Oculus Quest. Now, the developer came out and said this and then kind of backed off a little bit and kind of changed his statement a little bit, because the problem is you get these headlines, a headline like this: Thrill of the Fight developer says the Oculus Quest is complete and utter garbage. Get rid of it right now, everybody. The hand tracking sucks. It can't do it. He didn't want to come off like that. So he backed it up a little bit and said, well, you got to understand that Thrill of the Fight, the kind of game that it is, requires it would require incredibly accurate hand tracking, and the hand tracking not robust enough with what we have right now. Now, what does that say for the Oculus Quest? Is this a problem, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think it's a real problem for the Oculus Quest, because most of us did not think that we were going to get a hand tracking situation with the Oculus Quest in the first damn place. This whole hand tracking thing on the Quest is a bonus. It is ice cream on top of the cupcake. It is an extra. We're privileged. We're very thankful to have a little bit of hand tracking in this Quest, because the true hand tracking is probably coming with Quest 2. And so this is kind of an intro to hand tracking. It's some basic hand tracking. Now, I got to imagine the Quest 2 is going to have some dedicated hardware very specific to hand tracking, very specific to covering your skeletal, the neural network, the machine learning, all that crap, possibly extra cameras with a wider range to cover your hands wherever it's going, and to cover your hands even very close to your head when you're throwing those punches, so you could do it hands-free. I'm sure all of that is coming to the Quest 2. Is anybody out there disappointed by this? Did you think the hand tracking was going to be super, super robust on the Quest? Do you look at it as that bonus, that icing on the cake? Are you good with this? What do you think? Does this changes your views on anything? Looking over here at chat, Phil Yarn says Thrill of the Fight is a workout. Recycled says you need acceleration data to punch realistically. So Recycled is saying, look, even if you had hand tracking, it wouldn't quite be accurate enough. How are you going to get the acceleration data? Well, neural networks, baby. Neural networks and machine learning can do everything, right? Blockchain, blockchain, blockchain. Cyan VR says the Thrill of the Fight dev was honest then backpedaled because of Oculus Defense Force hatred. Yeah, Oculus Defense Force is strong. Okay, everybody's talking about the goddamn Sweeviver drama. So let's do it. Sweeviver, everybody. Sweeviver on Twitter. Let's just look at this. Sweeviver Twitter. Sweeviver Twitter. Yeah, so here's what happened with Sweeviver. Here's the drama. Do we still have the tweet here? I wonder if he removed the tweet. Okay. Oh man, let's see here. Yeah, so he's talking about okay. So this is the tweet right here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the tweet that shocked the world. This is what everybody's talking about with the Sweeviver drama. Okay, so Sweeviver was at CES. He works for Pimax. He's a representative of Pimax. He's doing demos for Pimax. A lot of different companies, a lot of different coverage, a lot of different outlets came through, checked stuff out. Palmer Luckey, military, big companies like Apple, all kinds of people came through and checked out their stuff. So here's what he had to say. Pimax won Digital Trends AR VR CES Award, had thousands of people, including media, pilots, military, big companies like Apple, etc., and even Palmer Luckey in the CES booth, and all were very impressed. All except at Upload VR. They couldn't find the Oculus logo, so they bashed it. Bam! That's basically what he said, and all hell broke loose. Now, really, a lot of the drama came off of this, not so much what Sweeviver said, but more of how people reacted to what he said. Now, here's the thing. If Pimax was a normal company, Sweeviver, don't know if he'd still have a job right about now. But Pimax is not a normal company. I don't think they're paying attention to this. I don't think they know about the blowback that is going on out there with this Sweeviver thing. And I'm not going to hate on Sweeviver. I'm not going to talk smack about... Dude, Sweeviver, at the end of the day, Sweeviver is a good dude. He's a good dude and he means well. He's a legit, proper guy. Okay, now he does work for Pimax, so he is going to accentuate the positive. He's going to slide the negative over to the side a little bit, dodge it a little bit. But, I mean, I'd do the same thing. If I worked for Pimax, I would do the same thing. I would accentuate the positive. I would kind of sidestep the negative. That's what you do. He's a good person. Bottom line, he is not a bad person. You know, me and Sweeviver got into something at one point because I was on some show talking something, and I might have mentioned Sweeviver's name, and it came out in such a way. It wasn't negative at all, but it could be interpreted that way. And Sweeviver did interpret it that way, and he got upset, and then I had to explain to him what was going on, and everything was cool. Everything was fine. But one of the things I've learned about Martin Sweeviver, dude's a little bit emotional. Dude will kind of like go off the hinges just a little bit. But, you know, I don't really have much to say about this. I mean, you know, honestly, Upload VR didn't really give them a lot of love. Pimax does have way too many goddamn headsets. The one thing I'll say about Pimax, I was thinking about this just the other day about all the freaking headsets they have. And I was thinking to myself, why do they have so many headsets? And why are they so insistent on having so many headsets? And I think I know what the answer is, folks. It's Kickstarter. They have to have all these other headsets because if it's a slightly different model, then that wasn't what they promised in the Kickstarter. That's the only reason, man. It could be the only logical reason that they have like 25 different headsets is all the different Kickstarter crap. And the Kickstarter crap is causing problems. And yeah, so anyway. So Rendered Reality says there is more to it than that post. Wish I could post a link here for. I really don't want to go into this I don't want to go into the Sweeviver controversy. That's enough. We've covered that enough. Okay. One last story here before we bounce out of here, folks. One last story. I mean, not before we bounce out of here, before we have an interview with Truant Pixel, which is going to be exciting. But one last bonus VR story before we do that. And so I'm throwing a trailer on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. What is this trailer? This is the Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer. And you know what? Today is the first time I've ever seen it. In fact, right now, as I'm watching it right now, throwing it into OBS, is the first time I've ever actually looked at this. Why, folks? Because I'm not a flat gamer. I haven't played flat in years. I haven't been a flat gamer really since 2015. Like, not a legitimate flat gamer since 2015. That's 5 years ago. I'm not tripping on flat. I am amazed that this game actually effing exists. Like, I'm amazed that it's really actually happening. How freaking incredible is that? But why is it on a VR show? It's on a VR show because the cat was let out of the bag, ladies and gentlemen. I got to imagine that Sony is very disappointed by this, folks. The cat is out of the bag. Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to support VR. This was going to be a big announcement for PlayStation VR. Now, not so much of a big of an announcement. Unfortunately, it's been spoiled. Let's go back to the webinator. Let's go back to the webinator and let's go back over to Upload VR. And if we check right here, so Final Fantasy VII, the soundtrack has been data mined. And you can see track number 21 says VR menu. VR menu. It's over. It's over. This has been confirmed. VR support confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. There's a freaking VR menu. They have a little background soundtrack for the VR menu that basically gives it up. We know that there is going to be VR support. So, I mean, it's just a matter of when they actually announce this, or Well, really, the question is the VR support going to be the full entire game will also be playable in VR, or is it just going to be a separate little VR add-on? We don't know about that. We don't know. I got to admit, we don't know anything about that. So we don't know exactly how much VR is going to happen with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but VR is happening with this. So that is incredibly awesome. Okay, so now I will go ahead and contact Truant Pixel, and I will let him know. Go ahead and call in. Call in at your leisure. Go ahead and call in whenever you want to call in. And we will be talking to Truant Pixel here in just a second. So I'm going to switch over to our guest mode here, and Truant Pixel will be live on the air here in just a minute or so. We do have a tape delay as well. But yeah, so, there's interesting news going on. Sweeviver controversy seems to be the exciting thing out there. But yeah, I don't know if it's all that exciting. We did find out, of course, about the 32 gig version of Oculus Go. Price dropped to $149. Final Fantasy VR. Okay. Whoops. Almost had Truant Pixel, and then, try again. I must have accidentally hit decline. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Hey, what's up? Okay, let's see if we got your voice. I gotta add 1 second here. Just a second, guys. We're gonna unhide all. I gotta add my desktop audio. Okay, there's desktop audio. Let me go ahead and hide this one. Okay, so I do have a question for everybody in chat. Let me move this off the screen here. I've got a question for everybody in chat. I don't know if my audio is going twice because I see my blue microphone meter is moving and the desktop audio is moving. So do you guys hear an echo? That's the first question I'll be asking. I'm going to go ahead and mute my blue microphone. I think I'm echoing.
I'm here. Someone said no echo.
Okay, so I'm muted. Okay, so
And they may be responding to the very first question too. So.
Yeah, okay. They're saying there is feedback from his end, but he is also quite a bit louder than you. Okay, so yeah, I'm muted. So now I've unmuted. Guest is loud, Ant has no sound. Okay, I'm gonna turn. No, I'll take care of the volume. Don't worry about it. I got you.
All right.
I got you. I could turn you down. Guest volume is loud, Ant no sound. Okay, I can hear the guest, but not you. Okay, I've unmuted, but it does take a little while. Can't hear Anthony. So we're just trying to get our audio situation rectified real quick before we start this interview. They're still saying they can't hear me, but I do have it unmuted, so they should be able to hear me pretty soon. Undo Anthony. Hear the guest, not you. Still? They still don't hear me. That's weird. Both are good now. It's good now. It's okay now. Okay, so I'll try to do the interview normal style, and we'll see if we have any problems. Okay, so right now, what I'm doing, folks, okay, on your end, M from Truant Pixel, if you can just try to mute whatever volume you got. Is there any way you can just be on headphones? You can hear my voice, but you can mute any other speaker or anything?
Yeah, I'm sitting in silence right now.
Okay. Because I'm hearing a little Maybe it's just feedback from your mic. Okay, we'll just go ahead and work with it.
It
All
could
right.
be Skype too. I come to think of it.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so basically what we're doing here, folks, is I'm doing an interview with Truant Pixel. This is M, one of the lead developers. How many people are on the team there at Truant Pixel?
There are three
Okay.
people in total.
3 total. And would you be considered like lead programmer or?
I'm actually no. I would be considered like the lead graphics programmer, art designer. I did all the music in 2MD, and all the animation in 3D. And then we have our counter. We have another member of the team who does all the programming, for the most part. All the, dealing with things like the AI and the gameplay and whatnot.
Yeah. Okay, so the video that I'm showing right now is Rendered Reality. Sean from Rendered Reality, Stangerism. He's in chat right now. And yeah, I figured I gotta grab a video where somebody's playing this. This is the Oculus Quest version of the game,
Yeah.
which of course just launched very, very recently. How's that going? Because one of the things I told you on Twitter is I really thought that you guys, it's a perfect storm for you because it's NFL playoffs. There's no competition in this very specific category. And if you could just get a little bit of awareness out there that your game is there, all these new Quest owners, I mean, I would think it might be pretty good for you guys.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's a marathon, not a sprint, as far as any kind of release like this goes, because it's VR is still very much a frontier. So we're trying, even though we've been kind of honing 2MD for the last couple of years, we are all constantly trying little things. And in the case of the Quest, it was, how much of the core experience can we distill into the game and, still get the right kind of performance and whatnot. So there's, as much as we're thinking to ourselves, we'll be the first, football game on the Quest, and it's still one of the first, long form games of its kind for VR, as opposed to just like a single, throw a ball through some hoops or what have you. It's still trying to do its own thing, and there's still a lot more unknowns than knowns. So I mean, the response has been really great so far, and we're really eager to see. We watch, like, anybody that streams the game, like we're watching how they play. And, especially like, AR style videos like this, like we pay attention to what people are doing outside of VR to see how it could inform the next, potentially the next title.
Yeah. What about the fact that Oculus didn't really have a lot of availability for the Quest? That's got to be a little bit disappointing for you, because here's your game, brand new game, it just dropped, it's the new hotness. You would kind of like it if there were Quests available at every Best Buy, every Walmart, like people could freely buy the Quest, because that's just more of an audience for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, do you mean in terms of like the availability of headsets, or do you mean in terms of like Oculus letting you release games, like letting companies release games for the platform?
I mean availability of headsets, just because, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the definitely, the more the merrier as far as it goes for us. I mean, when we found out we were going to be able to release on Oculus, we'd already purchased our own, headsets for development, and said, oh, we're going to need these for like, expositions and things like that. All of a sudden you can't find them anywhere, and that's a little bit harrowing. So, but yeah, definitely want people Definitely would be nice if they, suddenly found a warehouse full of them to sell right before the Super Bowl. That would be great.
Yeah, I know. The Super Bowl is a key thing, right? Because the Super Bowl is such a big deal in the United States in general. Just people are talking about it for weeks and weeks. And one thing I've noticed, and this is the last couple of Super Bowls, you probably have noticed this as well because you have 2MD on PlayStation VR. You've got you've got 2MD, of course, on the PC VR platforms as well over these last couple of years. And whenever we do get to the Super Bowl, like on the subreddit, somebody will mention, "Oh, it's the Super Bowl. What are the best football?" People always like, it's
Yeah,
the Super Bowl. What are the best football games? Or can you watch the Super Bowl in VR? People always kind of wonder about that.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Did you want to say anything more about that, or?
Oh no. Basically, we're still. It's kind of funny because we are thinking about the Super Bowl coming up, but we're still technically in the middle of our launch week. As of, I think today is the last day of our launch week, so we're paying really close attention to the analytics. It's kind of funny because you think that we were looking at like the sales and stuff, but really we're looking at the performance and the error analytics because I guess it's one thing that really. I guess Oculus is really leveraging that Facebook technology because you do get a lot of information as far as if a headset is overheating because of your game, if it
Oh, wow.
crashes, if you have a failed install. That's really, really cool stuff to have. Whereas, you can get some of that error reporting on Steam, but it's not as specific, and you're not dealing with one piece of hardware. And for us, it's been great because like our frame rate hasn't dropped at all, and we've had no crashes, at least in terms of the application having any kind of problems, reaching a hard fault or something like that. That's what we always think about when we're right when we launch something is like, how's it performing? Is anybody finding any bugs? Is there anything we need to jump on to fix, shortly, So that's been pretty good.
Yeah, that's mission critical right there because if you have a serious game breaking bug, it doesn't matter what else is going on. It becomes a disaster, a nightmare. You're like, oh my God, you're probably going through every little line of code trying to figure out what the deal is.
Yeah.
So, in chat, Ray Delatorre in chat said, I wish they had a full football game. And so this is something you probably hear a lot. Now, the thing about 2MD football, it is 2MD, 2-minute drill. So you're basically the quarterback. It's kind of a quarterback drill. You're trying to quickly move down the field. You're trying to score a touchdown. Then you have like the bonus round where you can earn bonus points and try to get your score up, and then you're going to the different stadiums and you're doing it again, and if you throw an interception, you get the ball back, so you're not playing both sides of the ball. But obviously people want more. They always are going to want more. That's just the way it is. But
Yeah.
do you think that people don't really understand like how complex this is, and like just providing offense is hard enough, trying to add defense into the equation is a whole nother ball game, right?
Yeah. I'll say this much. We're definitely glad that people like the game enough to want more from it. That's always gratifying, and I'd love to be able to say, yeah, here you go. Here's your full on franchise mode and season mode and championship. And we actually, if you look at different platforms, we have experimented. If you look at the PlayStation VR version of the game, you can play defense. There's a kind of, I think we called it a hothead multiplayer. Then we called it head-to-head mode, where one person playing on the TV can play, one person on TV can play defense while the person in VR is playing offense, and they switch on downs or touchdowns or what have you. And it's not easy because whereas getting the actual controls working didn't take very long, getting the AI for the other team to just branching it off from playing defense on its own to accounting for somebody taking control of any player at any time and trying to run their own routes, trying to, stop the offenses, push down field, that was really complicated. And that is one area we kind of did hope more people to give it a try, which is why we did it on the PlayStation VR platform. Yeah, like getting a full-on football game is definitely a much more complex animal. It's probably something in terms of programming and animation. It's something more than, I'd say, 4 or 5 times the size that 2MD is, and that's if you did something extremely basic.
Yeah.
And it's
People,
not, yeah.
like if you think about a game like John Madden, right? They've got like 150 people on their team. You know what I mean? Not 3 people.
Yeah.
Um,
People have certain expectations as far as what they would like to see in a game, and they're reasonable expectations to have, because up until now, that's what's been delivered year after year by the big boys. By the big boy, I guess, EA. Although I was kind of much more of a 2K fan back in the day, but it's definitely something that we're open to if the opportunity were ever to arise. We would jump on that in a second. It comes down to time and funding, of course, and we've always hoped that if we can get 2MD into enough hands and enough people enjoy the game and play the game, that maybe that's how that will happen.
Yeah. Well, one of the interesting things about it for you guys is when you think about Electronic Arts, first of all, they've been allergic to VR altogether. Like, they have not done anything in VR that I can think of. And, well, they did that one, didn't they do like a little Battlefield thing or something? But they really haven't done much of anything, right? And it's going to be a long time. How many years do you think it could be before somebody is willing to spend $50 million or more, probably much more, developing a full-fledged VR football game with like teams, NFL, all that?
It's kind of hard to say. I would like to think that, I like to think someone would want to try to do it sooner rather than later. It's going to be the truth of it is, I think everybody sees VR very much as a niche still. Even the most successful, headset, which is the PlayStation VR, I think at this point, even that is just a fraction of the PlayStation's user base, and simultaneously has if you look at other platforms, there's, I think, and I don't want to say something, I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I don't know if EA is putting out most of their titles on the Nintendo Switch even, as far as that goes. They're looking for a return on their investment, and most likely, I think it's probably not there yet.
Yeah.
For the big companies to invest. But again, you know what? It leaves it open for smaller companies to potentially innovate. Because if you look at Madden, and again, I'm not casting shade on anybody, because we definitely didn't make Madden, and we don't have to, worry about that. There's a lot of people who are very upset with Madden, who you would consider hardcore Madden fans, but they're intensely dissatisfied because they're not seeing the kind of innovation that they want to see every year in the gameplay, or how the players are represented and whatnot.
Yeah, I used to be a big time Madden. Well, no, actually, I haven't been a Madden fan in the longest time, to be honest, but they were the only game in town. So it was kind of like you were force fed whether you wanted it or not. You had to deal with it. And I've always had complaints about Madden because they basically had essentially the same game engine for like 20 something years that they keep.
Yeah.
It's like the same facade that they keep like pouring new paint over, and making it fancier, but it's the same facade. Like the underlying game engine is basically unchanged for like 20 something years. And you would hope that there would be some new technology that would absolutely force them to scrap it all and start over from scratch. One of the things I've said about like making a VR game like Madden work, without having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to do it is I've always had this idea. I'm curious to your opinion of this, but this idea of you're playing Madden in VR, you've got your Xbox controller in your hand, and you have your VR headset on, but it's like Madden is happening on like a table in front of you with like little hologram dudes running around like a tabletop, almost like you're playing like a real-time strategy, but all the little guys are running around and you're like a giant Godzilla that is like overlooking it, but you're still using an Xbox controller. You don't even need like a tracked controller or anything. So it's basically the same game. It's just giving you a new way to view the game. Do you think that might be something that could happen?
Yeah, that's actually how we envisioned playing defense in 2MD if you were playing in VR. Kind of like I think we had this, specifically like the holographic display for those, if we were ever to develop a version of the game that supported online play, which would, of course, have to be done from the ground up. But that's one way of doing it, and it will be one way to introduce people who are not familiar with VR into kind of easing them into it to a certain extent. So that would be I could see it working that way.
See, I could see that working awesome. I don't know if you're like a sports fan in general at all. I used to be like a crazy sports guy, like a video game sports guy, like basketball, baseball, football, hockey, like video game sports, all the way going back in the days, right? And we don't have like NBA, like an NBA 2K. We don't have a real hockey. We don't have a real FIFA. And the problem is to bring all of those games to VR, like to truly bring them to VR is hundreds of millions of dollars. Like if you were really going to do it the right way, right? But but I think whatever the new version of FIFA is, I don't know what they're calling it now, FIFA 21, whatever the hell it will be, right? Why couldn't they just have a VR mode where it's basically the same game, but you can use a VR headset and, tabletop style, you can see it. But anyway, let's move on from that. So one of the cool things about this, though, from your standpoint, by not having any of these big boys around, it's like what they say, like when the cat is away, the mice will play. You know what I mean? And so you guys can kind of be like a little mouse. And so you guys are running around and you can try to get that football itch that VR people have, and they want to scratch the American football itch. You're pretty much the only game in town, because the only other thing I can think of, there's of course Sports Challenge VR by Sanzaru Games. Have you tried that one? What do you think about their football component of that?
Oh, actually, their whole approach was really, really cool. I mean, their focus was more on accessibility and kind of demonstrating what the possibilities are with the touch controllers, I think. But their approach was categorically different from ours, because you use a reticule to point to where your throw is going to go, and then you use a throw to initiate the pass. But I don't think the power of the throw it's not really translated into the accuracy of the pass like in our game. But one cool aspect of it was going into slow motion to play a receiver, which was I thought that was awesome. I don't think they have any plans to expand that franchise at this point, at least from what I've heard. But I mean, the whole approach, wasn't just football. It's with all these other sports, like figuring out ways to make these mechanics work. It was awesome, and they had a really, really great presentation too. It's still one of those games that it's always good. I think if you have a Rift and you're at a party, you have friends over for a party, it's a good way to kind of introduce them to it as well, because it's not something that's as intensely skill based, but it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's actually kind of underrated. I thought the basketball was actually really fun. Like all of it isn't very realistic. Like the football is not very realistic. The linemen are like these, but the graphics are kind of like pretty good graphics. And so, but your game, I'll be honest, dude, your game is closer to Madden than their game. Like, period dot. Like, their graphics might be better, but your game has a better feel. Like, as I've played football when I was younger, you know, and I know what football plays like. I know what throwing a dump off pass feels like, and like
Yeah.
your game, no, regardless of how simplistic it might be graphically, I think actually has a relatively accurate feel. Like, one of the coolest aspects of your game is you are the quarterback, and when people are going across the middle of the field and you're trying to let a longer play develop and you're trying to let a guy get open, and then you're trying to throw the ball and kind of lead him enough so that the ball is there in the right spot, like you actually get the feel of kind of being a quarterback to a certain degree in your game. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
No, thank you. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I thought I was going to let you know just some of the funny stuff. So, like, all of the players in the game have their own individual stats, kind of like Madden. I mean, each team has its pros and cons, pluses and minuses, and people that are more familiar with the game, I think, will play as certain teams because they seem to fit their play style as far as being able to, you know, catch their passes based on how they tend to throw. Like, if they tend to do a lot more, you know, if you tend to scramble more versus trying those long bombs, for example, or if you like to do handoffs, certain teams will have certain players that have certain stats which will be better than others. Now, this is all invisible right now. For a while, we toyed with the idea of having a star player on every team. But that was something that we kind of logged away for potentially for another day.
Yeah, it's crazy because you know what? There's so many different little things you could do, you know, like I'm sure as a developer, you're thinking of all these different things. Like one of the things I mentioned to you over Twitter, like we were just talking in DMs basically, and I was saying, well, hey, what about snow? What about rain? You know, and you mentioned on the Quest that would be difficult, but like on the PC version, you could have snow, rain, because you go back to the old Madden, like on the Sega Genesis, for example. Greg's VR is mentioning the Genesis Madden, and I don't know if you remember those days, like way back in the 90s. It would have the muddy field and it would have the snow, and then like the ambulance would come on the field and run over the quarterback, basically, you know, all those crazy things.
I think I'm gonna have to shout out to Greg's VR because he covered the Rift version of the game, and he put some old school, like Genesis, like I think 93 Madden.
Yeah, Madden 93
tune.
on Genesis is the best Madden.
And they were pretty sweet. I was like, oh, you know, I kind of wanted to go back and redo the whole soundtrack in that style instead of doing like, you know, the horns and stuff that we did. But you know, I enjoyed watching that presentation. It was cool.
You know what I think, just real quick, I wanted to tell you, I think one of the coolest aspects of your game, for me at least, like one of the reasons I recommend this game to everybody, well, I always say it's just fun. It's just straight up fun. Like, you can play this game and you can be having fun very, very quickly. And you don't even have to really, if you can just kind of throw something like that, you can have fun once you get used to it.
Yeah.
But the one thing I really love about your game, the reason why I really kind of go out on a limb for it, is like the stadiums, the different looks of the stadiums. Like I was telling you about, you know, the high school stadium where it kind of has that moon and it looks like a werewolf could be off in the distance, you know, or Dracula or somebody, you know, vampire or something, right? But the stadiums have this like great feel. And I think in terms of things that you should add, like if I was in your position, I would be thinking of like a stadium pack, you know, where it adds like 4 new stadiums, or some of this different stuff where you have like the different colored fields, or you change the lighting a little bit so it seems like you're in a dome kind of more, or maybe it's really sunny, or maybe it's overcast, or, you know, weird little things like that.
Yeah, designing the stadiums was a lot of fun. I should tell you, adding stuff to the Quest version is going to be tricky. Although, as I said, we've not ruled it out at all. We want to see what the response is and what kind of things people are going to be looking for, or looking for from us. And again, we have some stuff potentially that we'll be announcing down the road. I can't talk about right now, unfortunately. But new stadiums and new attractions, which is like what happens when you score a touchdown and the dragon pops out, or the robot pulls the roof off the don't call it the Superdome, that sort of stuff. That stuff's always fun to do. I mean, we limited it initially to just stadiums for each that's themed after each team. But there's definitely certainly if there's demand for something like that, I think we'd be interested in putting something together.
A stadium on the moon or something like that, the backgrounds. You could make the backgrounds kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of different ways. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and pop on this screen. This is some of your next gen footage. Now, of course, you told me that this is kind of old, but but I'll just pop this on here anyway. So we got like a quick little 7-second clip of some video from a next gen concept, and then I've also got some screenshots of what your next gen concept looks like. And so basically what we're looking at here looks very similar to 2MD, but actual human, physiques. Basically the players are actual humans running around, but very similar, but the graphics have been pumped up quite a bit there. What do you have to say about this? Because the last time I talked to you about this, you were saying that you're going to need like an investment or like somebody to invest in it, or like the Quest version has to just like sell like mad for you to get enough money off of that to be able to like make a next gen version.
The part of it is the fact that tackle dummies are one thing, but the expectations for reality in terms of fidelity of the characters, fidelity of movement, impact, animation, that's on a whole other level. And especially, take that, and then this may be one reason why some of the bigger boys aren't doing this yet, because you take that and then you take it and you put it in VR, you're under even more scrutiny in terms of how convincing something, is. So this was an experiment. It actually used the current 2MD engine. And it replaced the dummies with players, and we developed an animation system just to drive it, just so you could snap the ball and have, just see how things might look. But, the impacts don't really have the kind of weight that they would need. And this definitely was nothing ready for prime time. But we're always, part of the reason I wanted to let people see this was that, we're always trying to think of the next thing. If we were to make another game, we would want to go, a little bit higher fidelity. I can't speak necessarily that the players would look like that or what have you, but they wouldn't just be, tackle dummies bouncing around necessarily.
Yeah, if you were able to get the kind of investment that you would need to do it the way you want to do it, would you be hiring like a bunch of additional people, or would you be trying to do it with the core team that you have right now? Or
we'd expand our core team by just a couple of people, because there are very specific things. We've worked on 2MD enough to have a really, really solid idea of what we would want to do and how we would want to do it. And again, we're not EA. We're not developing an NFL official licensed product. So we would be looking at it. I guess look around. I mean, there's some great guys that are making Axis football, that make a third-party product that isn't Madden for like the PC and for consoles, for example. And they do it because they enjoy doing it, and they make something that is really, really customizable. It's like, we'd like to do something kind of like that. So I think that we definitely have an idea of what we could do depending on the investment. And as I said, we're looking at the response from 2MD to see if that would be hopefully enough.
Yeah.
So
the tackle dummies, it actually worked out great for you, right? Because you make a great point. When you actually have a human character, now you're expecting the human character to move and bend, and it's the uncanny valley thing, where if you make it more of a cartoon thing, you're not really expecting those
Yeah,
flawless animations.
yeah, and so there are definitely, I should say, as I say, I can't talk about too many things,
Yeah.
because we always have a few kind of threads, out there. But definitely, we realize, like, if we were to do something like that and do something that did involve human players, we would have to get down the things like the animation and the collisions first, more than anything else.
Yeah.
Those would have to look good. And again, doing it in VR, it's entirely a different ball game, no pun intended, than just taking something that is played from a bird's eye perspective, where you can get away with hands clipping through guys and stuff like that. In VR, and that it's like going from standard definition to high definition. You have all the little flaws start to come out, so you have to account for those, and people are less forgiving about certain things than others. So
Yeah. So here's a question. Like, let's say you did have all the money that you needed to do this. The question is, would it be like a 2-year development thing, 3-year? Like, how many years would you have to be grinding away on it to make this dream game that you're dreaming about?
again, it depends on how much money. I mean, if it was like sky's the limit, money's no object, I would imagine it being like at least a 2-year process potentially. I'm just throwing the number out there. And the idea, the idea is that you could potentially deliver something that was complete and then add on it. So, because again, VR is a frontier and player feedback is key. When we developed 2MD and we first put it out on Steam, we got some feedback from people, and that was important. That played an important role in how we develop things further. We worked with the original 2MD. It was a 3-person project, but the original developer, who was close that worked with us, one of the developers that worked with us, was a good friend of ours. He put a lot of time into it himself, just to get things, feeling exactly the way that he wanted them to feel. And then when we got the game released, somebody said, "Hey, the ring toss, the bonus round is really cool, but I'd rather be able to skip it." And so we made that a possibility, just because someone asked, and that helped to improve the flow of the game. So
Yeah, I like the
yeah.
bonus rounds because it's fun to try to rack up those points and
Yeah.
try to throw the ball through all the. I'm like grabbing the balls, and it's like, oh, it stopped. I can't get no more balls now. But yeah, it's really cool. Let's see, what was I going to say? So, here's an interesting question, because if you were, like, from a business standpoint, one of the things you'd have to be concerned about, like, okay, Electronic Arts, you probably don't have to worry about them anytime soon, right? I mean, let's be honest, it's probably going to be 4 or 5 years before they get into this thing. So you've probably got a few years to work with, and you don't need to worry about that. However, there is the possibility that somebody like Oculus themselves, because they have the Quest and they have the Rift, and because the Quest is so popular in the United States, it's sold so well in the United States, and there's such a demand for the Quest in the United States, and because football is such a big sport, maybe Oculus could get some company to try to make like a higher end. I mean, I don't know if it would be Sanzaru or they try to, hire somebody else, but like could Oculus make another stab at like Sports Challenge VR or whatever, but more football? Would that be a threat to you? Are you worried about that? What do you think about that?
Oh no, my response to that is, give us a call. Our schedule is open.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
that would be sweet.
we'll be happy to be that to be that company.
Yeah.
Because again, we're able to deliver something. I mean, 2MD was originally made on a budget of like $2,000, so
Wow.
we will we're more than happy to make the best. We can make use of whatever they give us. So So yeah.
Can I ask you a couple questions just on the idea of like defense and stuff, or like, changing the game
Sure.
up into different aspects? So one of the things I was thinking about, like when you think about Tecmo Bowl, for example, okay, so you go back to a game like Tecmo Bowl, incredibly simple, right? But
Mhm.
but it has that gameplay that people love, and there's offense and defense. And what I'm thinking about, so someone in chat, I believe it was Chris Richardson, this is much earlier in chat, he was saying, can you run in 2MD? And yeah,
Yes.
you can run as the quarterback, but like, let's say you wanted to just hand the ball off to your running back, like you'd have to set him up in a certain way to kind of do that, right? Or how does that work?
All you have to do is take him either take him on a path that's near you, or if you know where you just have to know where he's going to be. Like if you're running a play, and he's looping around, if you know where he's going to be at any one time, then you can hand off to him, and that's how the actual how you hand off to your running back anyway. And there are times where if you might just be improvising, because the defense is really tight, the pocket is collapsing, and then, oh hey, there's a guy right here, and you hand off to him, and he runs it. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of different opportunities because it's dictated by the physics and the AI. But yeah, and you can run the ball yourself too, of course.
Yeah, you know what I've seen some games do, and this is like some of these football games have had two-player co-op mode where you're both on
Mhm.
offense. One guy's a quarterback, one guy's a wide receiver or whatever. And
Mhm.
and the way they do it is, how like when you're playing Madden and you're hitting like the B button and it like cycles you through all the different players, and so you're like popping into this player, that player, that player. So what I'm imagining is if you had play calling, like a simplistic play call. I mean, I know you have the plays that you can design before the game starts, and then you
Mhm.
can, you can use your thumb pad and select the different plays and stuff like that. But what I mean is if you could choose specific run plays and specific pass plays, and so let's say you chose a specific run play, you could then switch your man to like maybe the tight end or something, and then you just hit hike and your quarterback automatically gives it to the running back, and then maybe you can hit the button and switch to the running back. I was just trying to think of like, how do you do this? How do you, like, how do you do this where you switch to the different positions where it does like an automatic
Yeah.
handoff, you know? And then on defense, the thing I was thinking about with defense, if we went back to like NFL 2K, whatever it was, right? It had that first person mode. I don't know if you remember that,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you could be like the middle linebacker guy, right? And so you're in first person, you'd be the middle linebacker, and then you just kind of like try to run this way or that way and tackle the running back, or try to, switch to a defender. But one of the things you mentioned is Sports Challenge VR. When you throw the ball to the wide receiver, then it kind of pauses and then it goes to the wide receiver vision. I was also thinking that if you did that defensively, like if you did have a pause where it then switched to the wide
Yeah.
receiver defensive back, then as a defender, then you could try to like swat the ball away or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we've looked at the good thing is, I guess one benefit about VR is that everybody's already familiar with teleportation, so it wouldn't be a huge stretch for people. And I think Senzaro did it really well by having like time slow down too. Although that would make multiplayer, like offensive multiplayer or versus multiplayer, a little bit more difficult, of course, because you can't. It's not fair to slow down time for everybody necessarily, or you have to make it so the defense could work with, or the other team could work with that. But yeah, I mean, these are all things that these are things that we've actually thought about for a potential sequel.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. What's funny is, and if you look at, I don't know if you ever get a chance to play the PlayStation VR version or just watch some videos. We did a video breakdown about how defensive mode works in the game. Part of it was like showing how the sausage is made, because like we revealed some things about the AI in the game. Like, for example, as you play, after you get past the fourth round, throwing lobs is really not a good idea. You'll get intercepted almost every time. And it's for a couple of different reasons. One is because the AI is faster, and two, because the AI is watching what you're doing. they're looking at the receiver that you're following with your eyes, and they're going to his location. You know, just like you would probably do if you were trying to see where someone was going to, if you were, you know, covering a man. They also change up their defense. They start double teaming, you know, your receivers, and you know you have to use the playbook to get the drop on them. And then when we did the defense in head-to-head mode, we made that part of how the defense works. For example, one of the buttons that you can press will teleport you to the receiver, or to the defender that's closest to the receiver that the VR player was looking at. So, you know, which is, you know, one way of doing it, one way of accounting for not having the same mobility necessarily as you would in real life.
God, you know what? Wait, I just thought of something, and I got to tell you before I forget about it. You guys should be at the Super Bowl, man, because, no, I mean, think of all the little dumb pregame shows that they have on all these different channels. You've got Oculus Quest, VR. You're telling me that wouldn't be a segment for, like, Good Morning America or something like that? I'm telling you, man, you guys got to try to, like... you need somebody in your marketing department to try to hit up some of the, because you got to say, look, you're gonna need some football oddities for when it's football Sunday and you're getting ready for the Super Bowl and all that. I mean, you got an opportunity. I know it's hard, but man, the NFL should be calling you up. You guys should be like, you know how they have these different things at the stadium, like where they have these little fan events. Like I could see you guys being there.
One thing that we've always wanted to do, especially with the Quest version of the game, is because in developer mode you can turn the Guardian system off. Always wanted to play it on a football field.
Yeah.
And around here, I don't know if you can hear it echoing in our studio right now. We have a kind of a wide open space here, but it's just about the size of the pocket, and you can run around, you know. And one thing I haven't seen people doing on these streams, unfortunately, I haven't seen anybody actually running around instead of using the thumbsticks to run, because we're able to walk. I think so long as the Oculus has good lighting, you could potentially run the full length of a football field.
Yeah, you might, but at the same time, you might just not even want to mention any of this right now, because, you know, it's just one of those things. Like, you know, Apex Construct, that one game, I don't know if you saw that, where they had a trailer where a guy was running around on a soccer field, rolling on the ground and, you know, running all over playing. But no, yeah, that would be cool. And what about this though? Okay, so what if you had two Oculus Quests? You were saying that to try to do head to head, if it's going over the internet, then the ball has to be like a networked code thing, right? Like the actual ball itself.
Because I talked to our programmer about this after the PlayStation VR version came out. Said, hey, if we wanted to add, because we were talking about doing multiplayer, and we're talking about doing like a couch multiplayer, like a party game. So what if we wanted to do VR? And the way it broke down was, you know, it had to be completely rebuilt from the ground up, because the ball is a network object, and then the AI would have to be rewritten to follow the ball as a network object and take into account things like latency and whatnot. So unfortunately, it's not something as simple as right-click save as, you know, network mode or something.
No, I hear you.
But and that's the kind of thing that, especially given how, you know, peer-to-peer and dedicated server-based networks worked, it would add another year of development at least to anything if we wanted to add another mode or anything like that, because you have your initial programming and then there's a ton of testing. And, you know, the scary thing about all that is no matter how much testing you do in a closed environment, when it's out in the wild, all bets are off, because your server is not used to that load. Your AI, you know, you can have a lot more glitches. So it's definitely not something that it's not an insurmountable challenge, but it's not something simple to do. But I don't know. I think we'd still like to do it if we had the ability, if we had the funds for that.
You know, what about, so do you remember like Game Boy Advance and like the 3DS and stuff like that, you know, these different little handheld devices like PlayStation Vita and stuff, didn't some of these things communicate, like if you were in the same room, they would communicate wirelessly without having to go through any kind of online network anywhere? Like you could be camping or something, like
I
they would
think they use
communicate
like
to each other.
I think they were like RF, or in some cases later on it was actually rudimentary. It was Bluetooth, I think.
But the Quest
and
doesn't work like this.
Well, again, the ball's still a network object. You're just creating a very small network. So and it's a lot. I think it's a lot rarer. You have to kind of look at it in terms of the, you know,
How about
bang
you,
for your buck.
you connect a cord, both Quests are connected by a cord. That would be a disaster. Could you imagine? The link cable, the real link cable.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a problem, huh? Isn't it? But yeah, I wonder about this future, because it's like we have these Oculus Quests, and I wonder how successful VR is going to be until you can be in the same place. Like I could imagine this idea where I have my Quest here, somebody comes over, they have a Quest as well, and the Quests communicate with each other. And so I have a play space. I've drew out my Guardian, right? And I have a play space, and I would like it if the other Quest could be like, okay, I'm going to use your play space, and now I'm a tracked object in your play space. And then, do you ever remember there was this game called Army of Two? I think it was Electronic Arts, and these two guys would stand back to back with guns, you know, and they would have their backs to each other, right? And so you could do that physically, you know, with like actual Oculus Quests and stuff. Do you think this is something that they might think about for a Quest 2, to create some kind of way where they could piggyback off the Guardian and the room tracking and all that?
I can't really speak for Quest 2, but there are location-based entertainment centers like Sandbox VR that, you know, they do that sort of thing, like a communal VR experience. But there's you know, there's definitely a whole other level of like safety and liability with that. I think that Oculus would be thinking about that first and foremost. As cool as it is,
I know.
You know, you don't want two people running into, you know, smacking into each other in VR.
Hey, you're talking about people taking your game out to a football field, you know.
That's true.
But
actually, I said we wanted to try and do it, not to have anybody else do it. I mean, I'm at this point, I worry about how many ceiling fans we've destroyed in the last couple of years, because we constantly are getting, you know, get reviews from people saying, "Hey, I really like your game, but I destroyed my ceiling fan within the first 5 minutes."
That happens. It happens. You know, one of the things I've talked about on my show, I don't know if you've been following, or I don't know if you follow like a lot of just like general VR news or anything, like upcoming headsets and stuff. But one of the things I've talked, and I kind of joke about this, I call it the Quest Killer. And basically what it is, so Qualcomm has this reference design that has 7 cameras, and the resolution is like 2880 by 2880 to each eye, and you know, it's the XR2 chip and all of that stuff, right? And so eventually, well, actually at Mobile World Congress just next month, like late next month, we might actually see the very first final version of that reference design, and we might find out like who might be bringing one of these babies out. But what if they called you up and they said, "Hey, we've seen that you've already made a game for the Oculus Quest. It's running on the Snapdragon 835. You know, we've got this new platform. Let's just pretend it was HTC, and they've got Viveport Mobile on their new Qualcomm reference design with 7 cameras and face tracking and foveated rendering and all this crazy crap." And they said, "You know, we need a lot of games on our platform. We'd love to have a football game. Would you be interested in porting your game over to some of these new platforms? Would they have to give you a lot of money to be able to do that?" How do you see, like, do you think there's going to be any kind of competitor to the Quest, or are they just going to be the only game in town for like a standalone that really is a factor?
I think that well, first of all, competition is always good, and if anybody ever came to us and said, "Hey, will you make this for our platform?" You know, usually we're like, "Yeah, of course." But again, that's the extension. By extension, would be give us some money. Let us make something really complete for you, like really big, really cool. Because there's the desire for this is there. And I don't see why Oculus wouldn't necessarily leverage the same technology for Quest 2.
They probably will. They probably will,
Yeah.
but it'll probably be like, when would you expect a Quest 2? Wouldn't you find, like, I personally do not expect a Quest 2 until at least 2020, like, not maybe even 2022, like spring of 2022. Because the problem is, if they were to bring out a Quest 2, say next spring, even though, it's been like 2 years or whatever, some people would cry bloody murder. Like, people that just bought it that Christmas, they'd be like,
Well, I mean, one way to look at it is look how console generations are working out. The lines are being blurred. Your Quest games don't stop working when the Quest 2 comes out, and more than likely they'll be able to leverage people taking their own their libraries with them to the newer hardware, and might get a nice little visual upgrade, for example. And again, kind of, you could look at the Oculus Go situation. I mean, it's become kind of, I don't want to call it the low cost alternative, because Go games don't really, for the most part, they're not offering the same kind of fidelity of VR that the Quest can. But the Quest would kind of become the lower cost entry point alternative. So I think that it's I think that as the technology gets cheaper, and then you have fancier, more expensive stuff coming out, there's still a role for stuff like the Quest. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly. I couldn't guess like when they would have something available, but I can promise you they're developing it now, because that's how these hardware generations, usually go. I don't know. I'm really excited about the prospect of what Qualcomm was showing, because I remember like just to give you an example, okay, like in the video of the PC version of the game, or the demo, the alpha with like the human beings. The game I think the engine is calling about 2,000 set calls or set pass calls, which is like every time something is drawn on the screen or physics are being calculated. It's what is taxing the CPU and the GPU. To get 2MD running on the Quest, we had to bring that down from 2,000 to less than 100. We actually got it down to 90 set pass calls without compromising. And we said, like, the AI has to work exactly like it does in other versions. The entire audience has to be there, because some of the stadiums have like upwards of like 10,000, I want to say 10,000 or 9,000 fans, like, that scream and jump up and down. It's like, that's part of the experience. That's part of the immersion. Like, that has to be intact. And the throw mechanics have to be there no matter what we do. Everything else, like, we tore everything apart and kind of rebuilt it from like an empty field with just some tackle dummies running around. But being able to like not have to tear things apart that much to get your game on. I mean, I'm all for that, definitely.
Do you think the XR2, like this new chip, do you think it would have the room to allow for like snow and stuff like that, maybe?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, what's kind of funny is like, I found that doing things like having just having static objects in the background was hitting performance. And that's because the game has a lot more overhead behind the scenes with the AI, and with the AI and the physics tax the GPU more than the graphics do. So yeah, I think that given the multi-threaded nature of the chip that Qualcomm is demonstrating, and also the fidelity of motion too, I think it can probably handle upgraded effects, upgraded visuals.
It also has foveated rendering, so like it has dynamic foveated rendering, I believe, because there's two cameras that are actually in the headset looking at your eyeballs.
And that whole aspect is where VR is going. It's not necessarily stronger graphics processors necessarily, because you're going to get diminishing returns as you shrink the die and as you try to squeeze a desktop class processor into something that fits on your face and then doesn't overheat after an hour or 2 hours of use. But right now, the Oculus implementation of foveated rendering has benefits for things like texture resolution. Like you can render textures at a lower res on the periphery. It doesn't do quite as much for polygon density and whatnot. But being able to, I think, if what Qualcomm is demonstrating will actually drop the total render resolution in the periphery and thereby save on those draw calls and whatnot, then yeah, that's kind of where the future is going. And the stronger and the smarter that is, the better the visuals you get, because instead of having to worry about rendering a 360-degree world around you, at 4K in each eye, then it kind of goes back something to closer like the console model of frustum culling, where if you remember, frustum culling is basically you take everything that's outside of the player's viewpoint and you don't render it at all. So then you can concentrate everything on just what's in front of your face.
Yeah,
just what's in front of the camera.
That's what they do in real reality.
Right.
That's what the programmers of our simulation is doing in real reality, right?
Exactly. That's how the Matrix is programmed. The thing about VR that makes that difficult is that VR uses, and I think Steam called it time warp. And Sony calls it time warp as well for PlayStation VR, but basically it's trying to be predictive as far as where the player's head is going to turn next. So it has to be rendering things outside of their point of view, because you don't want them to suddenly turn their head and then there's no world, or the world is popping in. So you don't quite have that benefit as of yet. But foveated rendering, like dynamic foveated rendering, where they're tracking the movement of your eye, is like, oh well, this eye is in a fraction of a second determine that the eye is looking in this direction before he turns the head. We know where we're going to need to render next.
It's funny for your game. The eye tracking as well. You might be able to lock in on receivers just using your eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then I would like to be able to track where your eyes are going and throw defenders there to frustrate you.
Get tricky with it. Was it really hard to because you've mostly been PC development, right? So to then work on a mobile processor, did you have to take months just to kind of figure out what mobile processors are about, or is the development kind of similar? You just got to cut back on so much stuff.
We've actually done more console development, I think, than PC. I mean, our first VR game was Steam VR, and then we did something on PlayStation VR, and then we did 2MD on PlayStation VR, and then we did a visual novel on PlayStation, and then we went back to Steam because we bought our visual novel to Steam, and then we worked on Nintendo Switch, which is a NVIDIA Tegra processor. But ironically, getting the game working for PlayStation VR helped us prepare for getting it to work on the mobile processor, because the idea is the same. You're trying to minimize as much as possible the amount of dense geometry and texture memory that you're using, except going from PlayStation VR to going to the Quest, we had to drill it down a lot more.
Go ahead. I was just going to say a quick question about PlayStation VR, because PlayStation VR, you got these two platforms, right? You got the Pro, and then you got the OG PlayStation 4. If the OG PlayStation 4 didn't exist and only the Pro existed, would it have been so much easier, or not really?
I don't know about it. I don't know about the OG making it more difficult, because the way we approached it, and I think the way most developers approach it, is the standard PlayStation 4 has the greatest market penetration. That's going to be your widest audience, so you develop for that. And then when you're talking about PlayStation 4 Pro, the Pro is not like several orders of magnitude more powerful than the standard PlayStation 4. It's definitely got better graphics capabilities and some better more memory and better processing, and you can definitely you can see a difference in your game if you so choose to, which just adds a little more development cost, I guess. But really, it's just a lot more. It just feels like a lot more bells and whistles. So like with 2MD, we got it working perfectly on the standard PlayStation 4, and then, okay, what we can do on PlayStation 4 Pro? Well, we can render more shadows. We can do a few more visual effects. We can load things faster. The textures can be higher fidelity. It didn't end up being like, hey, suddenly they got arms and legs on the PlayStation 4 Pro. It wouldn't be able to go that far because it still doesn't have quite the horsepower to push that. And that's one area that a lot of the VR platforms, except for the PC now, have a lot more limitation. Like, we have these, all these tackle dummies running down the field. If you start adding like arms and legs, well, then you're adding, several more objects, more animation, more discrete things that have to be tracked. That adds a lot more overhead. So that's the limitation that I think that isn't going to be to the next gen of VR. That we're going to see overcome.
So here's a question for you. I've seen some developers moonlight with VR for a little bit. Make a couple of VR games, but maybe the success was kind of middling, and then they went back to flat games, and maybe they'll never return to VR again. What about your guys' studio? Do you think you guys are VR all the way through? Are you going to stick with VR, or do you think it's just going to depend? You're going to have to just go with the flow? What do you think?
We're definitely going to stick with it. We've kind of been firm believers in VR from the very beginning. I mean, we started out development on the Oculus, on the DK1, just to give you an example. And that was, I want to say 75 hertz, vomit comet to a certain extent. But we believed in it because VR offers a level of immersion that you cannot have with a standard flat games. Again, the media that you present on it has to be tailored for the platform for it to make an impact, of course. I mean, you don't want to just take try to shoehorn a VR experience onto something flat, it's going to lose a lot in the translation. You take something flat and put it in VR, you're not taking full advantage of it. So you can, it's all about tailoring it to the platform. And that, I definitely see that as something that we really enjoy doing, and we want to keep trying to do, even though it doesn't always pay the bills. But definitely. So count us as believers, I guess.
So here's an idea. Could we take one of those Oculus Quest controllers, get some duct tape, put it on our foot, and now we're kicking field goals? No, just kidding.
Well, we did a field goal throw in the head-to-head edition. We were trying to figure out, like, how do we do it? Do we do like an underhand thing, or do we just
or what if you're the guy that's just holding the ball? You're the guy that's holding the ball, and somebody else comes and kicks it, and you've got to like position the ball perfect or something with a little meter.
Yeah, laces out. Just remember, laces out.
Exactly.
No matter what.
Yeah, there you go. Or you got to be the long snapper. You're the guy that's snapping it. Yeah, so man, it's pretty interesting. I mean, this is definitely. So you mentioned before we started that you've also like looked at AR stuff. Have you guys thought about programming anything for AR, like some kind of game or anything, or have you?
We actually have a Magic Leap development kit of all things. It's sitting in a box on the wall right now. And it was kind of interesting to tinker with for a little bit. And we had some ideas for it. Actually, they weren't really game applications. They were actually more for rehab applications. But the problem is that the Magic Leap is limited in certain ways that, for example, the HoloLens is not. And we have one of those too. That actually proved to be a little bit more, had a little bit more utility to it. But the problem with both of these is the field of view is just not there yet.
Yeah.
And that's, they don't really get into consumer or I think even prosumer experiences yet until they reach that threshold. And the irony is it's going to be VR that gets there first. So VR is going to inform everything else.
Yeah, I agree because I just think AR, unless you just want like to see what emails you're getting and stuff like that, I don't think AR is going to be a big deal, but it's for a long time. I think it's going to take a long time. However, my audience, they don't think people are ever going to game with AR, and I think they're absolutely out of their minds. I think there's going to be some amazing AR games, but I just think it's going to be,
People already do game with AR,
yeah.
called Pokemon Go.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
mean,
I mean, like a Magic Leap kind of a thing, or
well,
Hololens.
let's look at this. I mean, again, you're talking about how cumbersome the hardware is. Look at the Panasonic 3DOF headset that they showed off at CES. You know, the thing that looks like it came out of Mad Max. Take that thing, and now imagine it had Oculus Quest level processing and a pass through, and then you were suddenly playing something like Pokemon Go with that. I mean, and assuming you don't mind how you look, I mean, I definitely see people potentially doing that, or someone developing an app where you're like playing hide and seek with an imaginary creature or something like that. So I think the possibilities are there. Someone just has to unlock the formula, for making it work.
So I know you guys are like crazy busy working on all your own stuff and making sure that there's no problems, and then working on whatever other games you're going to work on. Do you ever get much time to play any of these other VR games that have been coming out, like a game like Boneworks or Stormland or Asgard's Wrath? Do you ever get a chance to see like some of the state of the art that's going on in VR from these other developers?
Once in a while. Honestly, Truant Pixel keeps me incredibly busy with just making our own stuff, but there's a lot of fun in that. That being said, definitely, I definitely want to see. It's interesting. It's always interesting how other developers. It's not so much just having fun with the experience, because I'm always thinking about like, oh man, they handled this, they handled this thing in Boneworks like really well. This was really innovative the way they did that. This is a smart solution to a very common problem, or like how what I really want to see is how Valve does stuff with Half-Life Alyx, because that's going to be, I mean, Half-Life 2 sold everybody Steam, so Half-Life Alyx I think is going to sell everybody. It's going to sell a lot of headsets, and I'm happy about that. But they're finally you have somebody that's kind of throwing their hat to the arena again.
Yeah,
and not just as a platform provider. So,
it's already been proven too, because they're sold out all the way into March. Like they're not even going to have. They're hoping to have Valve indexes available for people that are going to buy Half-Life Alyx, in March. So they're already backlisted as well. And one of the good things for you guys being a football game. See, the thing about a football game, American football, is it kind of appeals to what I would call Joe and Sally Walmart, because like your hardcore super nerd types are more into like Asgard's Wrath and stuff, where your Joe six packs are like, yeah, let's play some football. I want to be Tom Brady, And so if VR does break out into more of like the mainstream consumers, they're going to want a football game, and they don't have anything to choose from other than you guys pretty much. I mean, is there a competitor? I guess it would be Sports Challenge VR would be your closest competitor.
I think we're both doing things a little bit differently. And actually, it was kind of ironic that you brought up Asgard's Wrath, because I think that was made by Sanzaru.
Yeah.
Which again, they're a top tier developer, and they do good work. But no, I don't think that someone has to own only one sports game in VR. I think that if anything, if someone plays 2MD and then they see, the VR Sports Challenges, I want to try that. Like that'd be awesome. Just in the other way around too. And I know that, people will develop. There'll be other football games on the market eventually, maybe sooner rather than later. I don't know. I like to think that we've developed something that's unique in its own way, enough that people will still want to come back to it just for how it plays, or maybe even how it looks if you like, something that's colorful and over the top, yeah, I mean,
God, isn't timing everything though? Because like you got to admit, you guys kind of were fortunate to get your game out when you got it out. Because imagine if this game was hitting the Quest in like July or June or something. It's not really football time. You know what I mean? And you're right at the playoffs and then the Super Bowl. Like it's perfect timing for you guys, I think.
Yeah, it definitely worked out. Although I think we're just happy to have it on the platform because Oculus is very, very smart about how they curate things, and sometimes that is a source of frustration for people. And for us initially, we were like, oh, what do we do? How do we get our game on this platform? Simply existing is not enough. But I'm just glad that we were able to get it released and get it in people's hands.
How much of the game did you have to make before you knew whether or not you were even going to be able to get it on the Quest?
I think we actually had gotten if I recall, we got the throw mechanics and the AI working. Like we got it to where you could basically play a game in an empty field, like with no stadium, no crowd, no nothing. We said, okay, this is doable. This is going to take a lot of work, and we're going to use a lot of tools, and we're going to have to really, really pare things down. But that's about as far as we got. And then we started the process, and we were used to the console space where it was pretty much, hey, we want to make a game for your console, and this, okay, sign this agreement. Here you go. Here, pay for your development kit. Okay, go to it and come to us when it's ready for QA. And Oculus is really more of as I think they said, the walled garden approach. I said, well, and I can see where they're coming from, because I think, the worst thing that you could probably do to a VR platform is have, bad VR, because that would, anything that makes people sick, or, it doesn't take enough advantage of the platforms, that's going to cause problems. Because every game, what is it Stanley used to say about comic books? Every comic book is someone's first comic book. It's kind of the same with VR games. Every game is someone's first game. And so you have to, I think they're approaching it from that perspective.
Yeah. It's got to be crazy though for some of these developers out there. Like I really feel bad for some of these developers, like Electric Hat Games with To the Top. Like I don't know if you've ever played To the Top, but man, it's such a good game, and it seems like it would be perfect. But Oculus is concerned that, like you said, if that was somebody's first game and they get motion sickness, it's a concern for them. So I understand it. But hey, man, M from Truant Pixel, absolutely appreciate this conversation. It was awesome. I would go on for a longer time, but I haven't eaten any dinner and I'm starving. I know you're back east and it's like 10 o'clock, right? It's 7 o'clock over here, and I still need to get some dinner, so I got to get off of here. But man, it was a really cool conversation, and maybe we can do this again sometime and even talk more into like future tech and like state-of-the-art VR and all these different things. So many other things I could have talked about.
I think if and when we have something VR related to maybe show off, I will let you know. But thank you for thanks for having me on and letting me talk about our game.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody out there, if you've got an Oculus Quest, you should check this out. Oh, what about like a demo? Is that something like, I'm sure it would be out of your hands, but do they ever go to anybody and say, hey, would you like to make a demo? Like, how does the demo thing work? Because if you did have a demo that was just like a 2-minute demo, that just gave people just a quick little taste, do you think that would increase sales considerably, or what do you think about that? Or would it actually hurt?
I don't know. I mean, because I think you could argue it for both, to go either way. But I think we did consider the possibility of a demo, although I think a couple of the things that deterred us from doing that were, one, I think most of the games with demos tend to be more expensive than us. I thought, and I could be wrong, your audience might correct me on this, but it seemed like more of the games that have demos were in the $24 to $29 range.
Yeah, yeah.
And then number two, demos have to go through their own QA and certification just like a game does. Because even when you're stripping things out, it still has to go through like a multi-week QA process. You have your own QA that we do internally, and then Oculus has their QA as well. And at any point, it can be refused if it's not meeting certain metrics or if there are any other issues. So we kind of realized we're kind of at a low enough price point that a demo probably wouldn't make such a huge difference. The other thing is that I think Oculus Store has a pretty good return policy, and I think it's, if you have less than 2 hours of play, if you don't like the game, you can get a refund. I think we respect everybody's opinion on this. I mean, there's people who like the game, a lot of people who love the game, and we're grateful for it. And there are people who absolutely don't like the game, and we can respect that because it's your money. At no point do I want anybody to purchase something that we make and be, unhappy with it or dissatisfied with it. Even when we have people that are on, the Oculus Store, we've had no problems with hardware failures or crashes or anything. But a couple of people have said, "Hey, this happened when I was playing. Is this game glitchy?" And we have to say, like, no. Our analytics are really good. We got through QA. QA wouldn't have let us release the game if it had glitches like that, and we wouldn't release the game if it had glitches. But get in touch with us. Let's see if we can troubleshoot it and help you out, because we want you to have fun. That's the whole idea. That's the whole reason we brought it to the Quest, is we want people on the Quest to enjoy it and play it with their friends, play with their family, and share their plays and things like that. So.
That's the cool thing about it too. This is the kind of game you could, like, if you were going to like a Super Bowl party, for example, it's a great game to bring with you, because you could pop somebody into this and just have them throw a few balls down the field and they can get a quick feel for it. And it's that instantaneous fun, man. I've always said, like, this game is just fun. Like, it's not going to be everything to everybody. And it's kind of more of like a quick hit, fun, bang, wham, bam type of thing. But I think it's really solid. I really like it. It's definitely one of my favorite. It's probably my favorite sports game in VR overall, all said.
Oh, thanks so much.
All right. Well, man, awesome interview. I really appreciate it. And yeah, keep me updated on what you guys are doing at Truant Pixel. Definitely looking forward to whatever your next projects are. And good luck with everything. I hope your sales are great, and I hope the NFL calls you up and gets you to some kind of Super Bowl thing, because you guys should be there, man.
Oh, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hang up on you and say goodbye to everybody. But thanks again, Em. Super appreciate it, and just hit me up on Twitter anytime.
Thanks so much.
Okay,
take care.
Take it easy. All right, well, that, let's go ahead and switch back over here. All right, well, that was Em from Truant Pixel. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate that. Apologies if we did have some weird sound problems or a little bit of feedback coming in and out, those kinds of things. That can happen. Real quick, I would like to thank our sponsors again. Like at the top of the show, once again, wanted to thank Wes Osborne. Thanks so much for being a Patreon supporter of the show, especially for an extended period of time. Been down with the Patreon for a while. That's Obuff55. You can catch him on our Discord server every once in a while, talking about Oculus Quest games and other stuff like that. Thanks so much, Wes, for being in the Patreon. Absolutely appreciate that. And also, real quick, wanted to thank a couple recent PayPal donators. Barry Davis, a $20 PayPal donation. That was really awesome. Absolutely appreciate that. And then also wanted to thank Michael Kowarski, another $20 donation. He just did one like a couple of weeks ago, and now another one. That is super awesome, Michael. Absolutely appreciate that. And last but not least, also would like to thank Rob at rt3dtech.com, a $25 donation very recently. Might have been today, or maybe it was yesterday. Thanks for that. Really appreciate that as well. And so now what I am going to do is put on our little outro logo here. And, oh, wait a minute. One last thing. Just want to remind everybody before I bounce out of here, remember, Sunday, do you like these interviews? Well, we're going to have another interview. Alex will be on camera, we believe, right? He will be on camera. That should be awesome. This is going to be on Twitch. 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday. I will be talking to Alex, and we're kind of going to do like a state of VR kind of a thing. We're going to kind of think about where VR is right now. I'm probably going to get a lot of his thoughts about the year 2019, some of the best games of 2019, some of the hidden gems of 2019. Dude, this guy bangs out so many freaking YouTube videos. He does so many like top 10 this, top 20 that. He is very prolific on the video editing boards. He is banging stuff out on a regular basis. So we're going to be talking to Alex. Never interviewed him. It's amazing. He's the only virtual stranger guy that I have not interviewed on this show. I've interviewed MameFan. I've interviewed Wes. I've interviewed Roots. I've had Roots and Wes on simultaneously. Now we're going to have Alex this Sunday, Virtual Insider, coming to VR365 on Twitch. Try to tune in live for that. It should be fun. We're going to be talking about state-of-the-art stuff, quest killers, all kinds of things. So it should be pretty interesting. Look forward to that. And now I get to duck out of here because, man, I am starving like Marvin. It is dinner time for me. I'll tell you that much. It's now 7-Eleven. And I need to hit up a 7-Eleven and get a burrito in a microwave or something. All right, folks, I will see you guys on Sunday. So everybody have a nice Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Take it easy. Later.